Welcome back to SuperString. Today I will show you an undertaking, science fiction film from 2009, named Land of the Lost. Spoilers ahead. Keep an eye out and fare thee well. In a strange wild zone, a space traveler frantically calls for help, however his communicator isn't working. He accepts he has fallen into some sort of tier in existence, probably not even Earth any longer. A thunder somewhere out there places dread in him, and he starts running, yet all the same it's futile, a hungry Trex finds him in any case. In the meantime on typical Earth, television have Matt Lauer invites to his show his most recent visitor, pretentious specialist Rick Marshall. Rick has been contemplating quantum fossil science, which depends on the hypothesis of time travels. What's more, has taken $50 million of examination. He's even compassed a book about it, and presently he's requesting more assets. Matt obviously considers equal aspects funny, and he calls attention to each significant researcher in the field, calls it babble, which maddens Rick and makes him leave the studio. Yet, he returns when he hears Matt express he's insane, expecting to battle him, as it were to become by security. After 3 years, Rick is making a show on tachyons, subatomic particles that move so quick that they travel in reverse on schedule. He's planned a gadget, the tachyon intensifier, that ought to permit them to travel sideways on schedule to one more aspect where past, present, and future all meet. Unfortunately, his crowd doesn't mind a lot, it's simply a lot of children on a class field trip. Also, they just have senseless inquiries to pose. Giving discussions for youngsters at a gallery is the main work Rick could get after the occurrence on television. However, one individual appears to be keen on his exploration, doctoral up-and-comer Holly Cantrell, who visits Rick and lets him know he's splendid. She figures he ought to wrap up building the intensifier since his speculations are correct, and to demonstrate it, she takes out an antiquated fossil with an engraving of an advanced lighter. She tracked down it in the desert, encompassed by gems that transmit tachyon energy, as the one she's wearing on her neckband. Rick takes a gander at the fossil, takes out his own lighter, and puts it on the engraving. It fits impeccably. This gives him back the expectation he had lost. The following day, Holly returns to beware of him once more and observes him awakening from a food unconsciousness. He remained up working until extremely late, yet he got it done. He completed the tachyon intensifier, which he constructed utilizing some family protests, so it has a few extra information from the drive like senseless melodies. He hasn't been sufficiently bold to test it yet, however, so Holly takes more time to the desert, where she viewed as the fossil. The issue is, the cavern she used to investigate has turned into a vacation destination, so they should pay gift retailer Will Stanton to take them there in his pontoon. The cavern has been enriched to make it look creepy, yet Rick and Holly couldn't care less about the made-up fantasies Will is attempting to tell them. There's a solid tachyon perusing in his cavern, so Rick turns on the enhancer, which falls into the water when a seismic tremor out of nowhere starts. The waters under them get more forceful, and the pontoon is pushed to the rear of the cave, which has supernaturally become further and shining. The threesome falls into a water vortex toward the finish of the ride. This vortex ends up being a time travel that takes more time to the place that is known for the lost where past, present, and future impact, very much like Rick had guessed. They're on a major desert encompassed by different things that have fallen there, from arbitrary ways to a Viking transport. The main issue is that they've lost the speaker, so they should track down it if they have any desire to return home. An unexpected commotion cautions them of a presence close by, so they go examine. They track down 2 progressed primate animals going to forfeit a third, so the triplet chooses to slice in to safeguard him. Will attempts to frighten them away with the fire of his lighter, however the animals basically snatch it when he unintentionally drops it on the ground and take off. Since she's concentrated on crude dialects, Holly moves toward the third animal to show him their companions, and they get familiar with he goes by Chaka. Rick attempts to check Chaka's injured lower leg, however this makes him go crazy and run, so the threesome pursues him. They wind up falling into a secret sandpit that takes more time to an underground cavern filled with bones. Conscious plants sneak on them from behind and snatch them by the midriff to drape them on a tree, so the gathering starts swinging from one side to another to attempt to arrive at the storage compartment. A T-Rex shows up on the contrary side and attempts to eat them, but since of the swinging, he misses them and bites on the plants, all things being equal. This liberates the gathering and makes them tumble to the ground, where they quickly begin running away into the wilderness, where they stop to snap a photo of the T-Rex for verification prior to making their way into a mountain. Chaka has crossed a scaffold and is attempting to annihilate it to prevent the dinosaur from following him, so the triplet should run extra rapidly so they aren't abandoned. They cross to the opposite side without a moment to spare, and when the T-Rex perceives how limited the scaffold is, it concludes the gamble isn't commendable and leaves. It adjusts its perspective, be that as it may, when it hears Rick say its cerebrum is the size of a pecan, so it pivots and bounces over the hole to pursue them once more. Yet again the gathering starts running and enters an alternate cavern with an entry excessively little for the T-Rex to go through, so this time it surrenders for good. Will is certain the dinosaur has been taking a gander at Rick, and Holly chooses to call it Grumpy. Inside this cavern, Chaka tracks down the skeletons of two people and a lot of their stuff, counting a stereo, so they choose to camp there for the evening. With Holly going about as his mediator, Chaka informs the medicinal concerning his life. He's the sovereign of his kin and has been the survivor of a slippery plot to take his lofty position. His main wrongdoing is to adore excessively, and he believes he's been dealt with too cruelly basically since he's crapped in the town well. In the interim, Will needs to place a containers before the cavern access to try not to be yet again found, yet Rick advises him that dinosaurs have a mind the size of a pecan. Out of nowhere, something hits the cavern and makes it shake, and when they go outside to check what it was, they observe a Goliath pecan the T-Rex has tossed at them. The next morning, Chaka presents to them a few natural products for breakfast as an indication of kinship. In any case, they have bugs inside, since that is what he thinks about food. The cavern starts shaking again when an extremely splendid light shows up among the trees outside. Then, at that point, Rick gets a few unusual dreams of an outsider asking him for help. He acknowledges this solicitation and runs into the wilderness with his gathering following him intently until they go over an unwanted sanctuary with odd-looking sculptures and some sort of precious stone pillar that has been sending the message to Rick. Chaka is stressed over these sculptures and attempts to caution them of the creatures stowing away in obscurity. However, they can't get him, so these reptile-like creatures make a move to come out and encompass them. Holly removes her belt trying to involve it as a weapon, and that gives Rick an thought. He utilizes the belt clasp to think about daylight the sculptures and afterward the pillar, opening an entryway they enter, however the creatures can't. This gateway takes more time to a pocket aspect, where the outsider from Rick's vision, Enoch, stows away. He makes sense of the animals outside are Sleestacks and they are attempting to assume control over the world by utilizing the force of the gems. To overcome them, he really wants the Tachyon enhancer to release the full force of the gems, that way he could likewise send the threesome home. Will has no faith in this person, yet Rick acknowledges to help. The gathering returns to the wilderness, where Rick makes a smaller than usual guide of the area to attempt to concoct a game plan to track down the intensifier. The initial step is utilizing dinosaur pee he's accumulated for the time being to conceal their human aroma. Rick showers himself with it 2 times, however his companions will not do it as well. The arrangement ends up being trivial, however, on the grounds that Chaka appears then, at that point, and asks them to follow him to certain pieces of information he's found. They return to the desert to an area that Holly pictures to be the passage point, in light of the fact that it's loaded up with arbitrary things, including their pontoon. At the point when a frozen yogurt truck tumbles from some other time wrap, a lot of dinosaurs appears at feed on the frozen yogurt man, including Grumpy and his better half, who are an exceptionally regional species. This implies they smell the pee and choose to pursue the gathering. The party starts running this way and that, and Grumpy figures out how to get Rick, however he liberates himself when his laser pointer gets Grumpy in the eyes and makes him drop him. In the wake of stowing away in different structures and vehicles the dinosaurs continue to annihilate. Rick stows away behind a major stone and observes a tank of fluid nitrogen, which he gets and takes to a launch that Holly and Will get ready for him. The tank is shot into the female dinosaur's mouth, causing it to detonate in million pieces, what's more, uncovering the intensifier, which had been in her stomach from the start. Before they can arrive at it, however, a little dinosaur attempts to get it, and a pteranodon comes in and takes more time to its home while hunting the more modest task. This makes Rick abandon their pursuit, and Holly is wounded by this choice, since she had discarded her future in science for following him and his insane hypotheses. She, Will, and Chaka return to the wilderness to camp for the evening, and Holly interprets somewhat a greater amount of everything Chaka says to them about his life. He misses his clan, which is traveling and resides where food is. The ladies serve every one of the men's necessities, and as the ruler, Chaka has an array of mistresses of his own. He believes they're revolting, however they compensate for it with decent characters. Their little visit is intruded on by Rick, who had a ton of time to think and has concluded he won't surrender. He attempts to apologize for his demeanor with a melody on the banjo, while a tremendous mosquito sucks his blood, which causes him to feel tired. The mosquito winds up kicking the bucket when Rick drops on top of it. The following morning, Rick doesn't see the Goliath welt on his back. He simply directs the gathering to the spring of gushing lava where the dinosaur home and the enhancer are. Cautiously, Rick sneaks among the eggs without contacting them and arrives at the intensifier, which has been playing music from the start. At the point when Rick switches it off, however, the eggs begin bring forth, since what has been keeping them sleeping is the music going about as a children's song. Rick can't figure out how to betray, so he begins singing, and his companions before long go along with him, even Chaka, who demonstrates to have a brilliant performing voice. The child dinosaurs return to rest, and the gathering figures out how to escape with the intensifier. To praise their prosperity, they return to the desert and have a great time in the pool, where Chaka imparts a few natural products to Rick and Will as it is custom in his town. These natural products end up being sedatives, so while the three men trust that the impacts will pass, Holly evaluates the intensifier. It causes one more precious stone monolith to show up in the center of the desert, and she enters it to track down a cavern inside with dinosaur eggs, so she keeps one. There is additionally a visualization with a message from the locals with an advance notice. Enoch is really the miscreant, and he's attempting to get the force of the gems for himself. Before Holly can run back to tell her companions, however, she's caught by a sleestack. In the interim, the men nod off in the wake of eating a Goliath crab that fell in an underground aquifer and got boiled. The following morning, they find Holly is gone, so Rick sends Chaka on a mission while he and Will investigate the monolith cave. There are sleestacks monitors around having some time off to shed, so the men take their shed skins to put them on and profess to be sleestacks as well. They follow the animals to the sanctuary where Holly is in an enclosure going to be brought down in magma for having helped Enoch, so presently Rick and Will know reality also. Stacks need to catch them as well, so Rick bounces on Holly's enclosure and starts swinging it from one side to another to hit every animal and drive them into the magma. Both of them leap out of the enclosure before it falls and they kiss, then, at that point, Holly advises them to pick up the pace and leave before Enoch tracks down them. However, there's a little issue. They had proactively sent Chaka to get him. Enoch shows up then with a multitude of sleestacks. He's brain controlling with his very own precious stone and takes the intensifier prior to causing Grumpy to seem to deal with them. Rick concludes he mustn't run any longer, so subsequent to sending Holly away for her own well-being, he defies the T-Rex. He attempts to utilize a portion of the firecrackers Will had in his pocket, yet they don't work, so he discards them along with his lighter, which makes the fossil Holly found. Then, he utilizes a staff the Sleestack minister had been holding to attempt a shaft vault, yet Grumpy essentially swallows him when he's in the air. Since Rick was his main objective, Grumpy overlooks the others and leaves, so presently the Sleestacks return to the sanctuary. Enoch enters the pillar and starts working the intensifier on the gems, while the gathering attempts to fend off the Sleestacks, yet there are an excessive number of them. Abruptly, some strong assistance shows up. It's Rick riding on Grumpy, who effectively overcomes every one of the adversaries that encompass them. Holly and Will need to realize how he's alive, so Rick lets them know Grumpy crapped him out, and when he was advancing out, he unstuck some digestive blockage. Surly is grateful for that, so both of them are currently companions. The gathering enters the monolith entryway and observes Enoch, who has previously opened a period wrap to Earth. Rick hops on him and wrestles him on the ground, yet when Will attempts to help, he slants the gem plate and makes one fall, breaking it. This makes the entryway close, so Rick thinks rapidly and gets Holly's precious stone jewelry to supplant the one that broke. Once more, the entryway opens, so Rick and Holly rush towards it to get away, yet Enoch snatches Will and keeps him from doing likewise. With the assistance of Chaka, Will pulls a wrestling move and catches Enoch prior to advising his companions to leave without him. He scarcely had a daily existence back on Earth, so he is remaining here with Chaka and beginning once again. Holly and Rick enter the entry and return to Earth, right at the entry of the Traveler Cave in the desert. In the interim, Chaka takes Will with him to meet his clan, where the ladies he called appalling are exceptionally human-like, so Will is glad to get to know them. After a year, Rick shows up on television again to rub his prosperity on Matt Lauer's face. He shows everybody a dinosaur egg Holly carried with her and advances his new book, Matt Lauer Can Suck It, which makes Matt leap on him to punch him. After the show is finished, the egg hatches while laying on the table and uncovers it's not from a dinosaur. There is a child Sleestack inside.